Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank our witnesses for being here this morning. And I also want to take just a moment to honor the great men and women in law enforcement and recognize the essential role they play in keeping our country safe. You have an ally in me and my colleagues, certainly on this side of the aisle. At this hearing, we're going to discuss policing in America and whether the doctrine of qualified immunity should remain intact. For anybody who's not aware, there are some people who watch these proceedings at home. Qualified immunity is the doctrine that protects law enforcement officers from civil liability for honest mistakes they make while serving in one of the most high-pressure jobs in the world. The vast majority of police officers in this country are self-sacrificing public servants. They put their lives at risk every single day when they put on that badge. I know this from my own experience. I grew up at the Fire and Police Training Academy in my hometown of Shreveport, Louisiana, where my dad was a training officer and assistant chief before he was critically injured and permanently disabled in the line of duty. If we're going to ask our officers to potentially make the ultimate sacrifice for the safety of others, we have to provide them with legal protections that qualified immunity affords. Period, full stop. However, despite the sacrificial service and bravery of law enforcement, there are some Democrats in Congress who continue to push the false and outrageous narrative that police are actually somehow to be regarded as the enemy. We all saw this over the last couple of years. And as we all know, there are some on the progressive left, some elected members of Congress who've gone as far as to call for the full-scale abolition of police, if you can imagine that. It's insanity. My Republican colleagues and I are here to tell you that they are wrong, stating the obvious. We need police officers, and we must maintain law and order. Nothing makes this more apparent than the spike in violent crime and homicide that we've seen in Democrat-led cities that have defunded their police departments. In 2021, the homicide rate rose by 5% from the previous year. And if you think that number is unacceptable, wait till you hear the next one. In 2020, the homicide rate rose by 29% over the previous year. Yet even in the face of this madness, police officers wake up every single day, they kiss their loved ones goodbye, and they show up for work. Meanwhile, the defund the police movement, the pandemic, and COVID vaccine mandates have gutted police recruitment and retention efforts across the country. I know many of you have experienced that. At a time when departments are struggling just to fill open positions and make our communities safer, we still have Democrats here determined to expose our officers to civil liability for simply doing their jobs. There are very real common sense reforms that all of us acknowledge that we can make to policing in America. We've had thoughtful discussion about that. That's why I joined a large majority of my Republican colleagues in supporting the Justice Act this last Congress. But the Democrats in charge made sure that that bill was dead on arrival. They squandered what we saw as a crucial opportunity to make positive change and build better relationships in our increasingly divided communities. And this just shows the radical left's calls for reform are nothing more than political talking points, sadly. So what should we be talking about today instead of eliminating qualified immunity? We should discuss ways that we can further support our police officers. We should encourage them to continue building stronger relationships with their communities. We should give law enforcement the tools and training they need to maintain law and order. Their role is critical. This is a critical part of the fabric of our nation, and as we all know, that fabric is being frayed right now in unprecedented ways. We are the greatest nation in the history of the world. And the only way that we will continue that, maintain that, is if we back the blue. It really is that simple to us, and qualified immunity is a big part of this. And so I look forward to the discussion today and hearing from our witnesses. I know some of you have done some very important work in this arena, and I yield back.